Hello, my fellow YouTubers. So, I'd like to take you through some of the evolution of understanding about a few of the most important safety items on a motorcycle through my 42, 43 years of riding. So, I started riding as fresh junior in 1983 on a 1976 Honda Super Sport 554, and it was beautiful blue. I always will love that shade of blue. And the first thing I wore on my feet for safety, because I kind of understood the concept of protecting the ankle, but I mean, I wore skiing gloves. I wore literally like a $20 helmet that was like the worst excuse for a helmet I've ever seen in my life. Usually I didn't wear a helmet, but if it was cold out, I got this $20 helmet that was just the worst excuse I've ever seen for a helmet. Anyways, for my feet, I would wear the very, very popular at the time, mid 80s, Nike high top basketball shoes. I'd always wear them white, usually with a black or navy blue swoosh. But I knew that would protect my ankle. And I learned from many, many little, 5 mile an hour falls, just little falls, teaching myself in the neighborhood I lived in as a teenager on this super sport, having little falls. And so I knew gloves were important because even at the little fall, you can get all four knuckles scratched up kind of bad, and it hurts having to use your hand throughout the day or whatever. But also just little scars accumulate all over your hands from skateboarding. And I just knew that gloves should be a must. So like I said, I started with just ski gloves, but quickly just moved into just very, very simple leather gloves. And, no padding, not really making sure that it's tight around this part so it won't slide up on you. These just have a little bit of elasticity right there. So very, if you were to hit really hard, let's say you're sliding feet first and your hands on the ground sliding in this direction against the ground, there is a likelihood, because it's not that tight right here, that your glove could just slide off. So, not the best, but much, much better than nothing. So then after the high top Nikes, I started wearing more of a very similar boot. These are Red Wings, but Doc Martens. And they're leather with a kind of a thick, heavy sole like this, and with ankle support. So when you lace up a boot, you're getting ankle support. And I knew that was important because I'd actually met people already at that young age in my teenage years, like 18, 19, that had a limp for the rest of their life because of a motorcycle accident ruining an ankle. And these accidents sometimes could be like 25 or 30 miles an hour and still have a crazy limp for the rest of your life. Actually, my cousin that rides Harley and has much, much longer than me, his best friend, it was really rude. And I've mentioned this in a different video, so fast forward if you need to. But, his friend was like 10 or 15 yards behind him. And like 15 yards in front of him, the light turns yellow. So he guns it, knowing that, we try to keep up with each other, knowing that this is going to put his friend in a precarious position to where he would have to literally rush through a red light that's been red for like 2 or 3 seconds. And you know that 2 or 3 seconds is crucial because that's the time that it takes for the other light to turn green and for people to actually put in gear or step on the gas and start moving into that intersection. And so his friend did that. He tried to keep up with him and went down, you know, probably 50 plus, I'm sure, and has a bad limp for the rest of his life. So, you know, and then in the year 2000, I bought my first cruiser. And in the year 2000, I bought these really, really good quality boots. Fry is the name. And, you know, just an old school, simple kind of 70s car mechanic, motorcycle rider type of boot. But this was more so for style. Yes, you still have, you know, a sturdy sole with a sturdy heel and leather, which is good against abrasion. You know, it can slide down the road well, won't burn a hole in it within the first second as you're sliding at 50 miles an hour. And but you have no ankle support. So I would actually choose something as silly as this over this just for the ankle support. Because this, obviously, you know, the sole is not as firm and sturdy. There's no leather. This fabric going down at 50 will burn a hole in it in a second or two, sliding against the concrete or the asphalt. And it's kind of soft at the ankle. So yes, you have ankle support, but then if it's maxed out in an accident, it'll bend more than this stiff leather would. So these pretty much don't get worn anymore. Okay, so gloves, you know, really hot day. It's so nice to wear a t-shirt, you know, because I will never wear shorts. But I'm going to focus mainly on just feet and hand and gloves. So boots and gloves. Because I could go into blue jeans. I have safety jeans that I could go into with Kevlar stitched in. I could go into a lot, but I'm just going to focus on boots and gloves. So obviously you're giving up something if you wear fingerless, because you could be sliding down the road and your fingers getting terrible permanent scars. But it's so, you have to cool down somehow, and especially on a Harley on a really hot summer day with all that heat coming up from the engine, especially if you're in the city. So something like this is great. So this has the bonus of hard knuckles, obviously. It has like double stitching in the palm. It has Velcro so you can make it nice and tight so it won't slide off like I was talking about earlier. But then you're just lacking the fingers. So everything with safety is kind of like a little bit of give and take, because normally if you're riding a cruiser, you don't want to look like what they call like a squid, like a sport bike guy that's wearing a one-piece leather suit, full knee-high racing boots, like the most expensive, like $600-800 Arai helmet, you know, the gauntlet gloves that are all hard. You're just not going to do that in a cruiser. And so that's kind of why I prefer riding in cold weather. I've always liked cold sports, surfing in wintertime, skiing, but snowboarding. But you get so much more protection. Like I'm going for a ride in a few minutes and I have long johns on under here. I have a long john here and I'm going to have a leather jacket over this long john. So even if I go down, I don't have any padding in the leather jacket in the elbow because it's not a sport. It's not that way. But just having this underneath leather is going to provide at least a little bit of something. That's reaching right there. This is not very much padding. That's really reaching. But if you had 2 layers over your elbow and the leather jacket, that's that little bit more. Um, and I did have some armored up jackets, but once again, I'm trying to stay focused on feet and gloves. Something that's kind of cool is noticing what kind of leather it is. So these have seen better days. These were black at one time. But deer skin is nice because it's thick and supple. So obviously gloves, you want them to conform to the shape of your hand a little bit. So being supple is nice for that. The leather feels really good when it's new. But it's also a little bit thicker. But now if you want to go thicker than deer skin, you have pig skin, but horsehide. Horsehide is the stuff. I have a black leather jacket that's made out of horsehide. And literally, like if you were to grab my shoulder with it, you'd have a hard time gripping it because it doesn't bend very easy. It's really thick. That's what they used to use with the motorcycle officers' police issue riding jacket. It was always horsehide. And all old school motorcycle jackets were always horsehide. Obviously, the stitching is really, really important if you're going to be talking about any kind of riding gear. I do have a pair of motorcycle boots, made for motorcycling. I bought those when I had my 900 Triumph, a 2007 Triumph Bonneville 900. Love that bike. That was the first year that, the last year they offered carburation on the Triumph. They already had fuel injected, but they also offered carbureted. So it had a chain, it had carburation, spoke wheels. So even though it was an '07, it was pretty close to the old 650 Triumph Bonnevilles from the 60s. So I'm getting excited about having a YouTube channel that is really primarily just about motorcycles again. Because over approximately 3.5, 4 years, I made videos on kind of a depressing subject, and that is you can look back at my old videos and it's like, surviving narcissistic abuse, being the scapegoat in a narcissistic family cult. Golden child, because, not golden child, chosen one, because people that are chosen ones are oftentimes empathic, and they're also, the Lord draws close because of that difficult situation they're in at a very impressionable young age, where they're not able to really process anything other than, I'm not appreciated. My family is indicating to me with its actions that I am of no worth, no account. And that, I wanted to help others, lift others up by their bootstraps, so to speak, because that's just always been my inclination. And if you go through something really, really difficult and it's hard and you don't have anyone to rely upon, oftentimes if you're a caring person, then you want to give back and help those that are in the same situation you were in a few years prior, and wished you had some benefit of someone else explaining to you what you're going through and what it's all about. But at the same time, it's not like really, people have YouTube channels on all kinds of subjects, and usually they're in their areas of interest and hobbies, and it's things they enjoy. Not discussing how you were mistreated and abused by those you love more than anyone in the world. So yeah, kind of looking forward to closing that chapter, as I said in a video I just made this morning. Closing that chapter, and starting a chapter focusing more on all the beautiful things in the world and that I'm able to access, reach out and touch and appreciate. Because, life is beautiful, and the good Lord knows the desires of our heart. And when we really love him and we try to breathe flames into the coals of that relationship, it's greatly appreciated, and he looks after us. And he sends us the things that we need when we need them. Sometimes you don't even need to ask. I'll like churn down bananas because my money's tight, and I bought all these vegetables. So I just say no to the bananas, even though I thought just 3 would be nice. And I'm like, no, I'm coming back on Saturday. I'll get them then. And then stepping out my door in the morning and having 3 bananas, like sitting on a bench. So things like that, happen so often that you can't just write it off anymore. And you can't just say, no, I'm imagining this. No, it's God communicating with you and proving to you that he knows your every thought, and he likes caring for you. He likes looking after you. He likes providing for you. He is our Abba Father, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. And just think about, if you were a parent, how much you enjoyed seeing your children sleep, or how much you enjoyed seeing them play with another child when they're really young, a toddler, and laughing, and seeing your child laugh at interactions with a cousin or their sibling. And then you just get so happy, God looks at us that way. He looks down at us on earth and just loves watching us. And he knows us so intricately that when he sees something that tickles our funny bone, he knows, oh, there's my Sheldon. He loves jokes like this, So, anyways, life is good. I love the ups and the downs when you have the good Lord holding your hand. Because the more you love him and the more you trust him, it's kind of like the more he's willing to send really difficult trials and tribulations, because he knows you have broad shoulders. And when you rely on the Lord, you have broad shoulders. You can handle a lot. And that glorifies him, and other people see that. So you're bearing good fruit just by really loving him. Then that increases your trials and your tribulations. But it ain't no thing, because you're made so strong by the creator of the universe. I love turquoise. So I got my new coffee mug yesterday at this coffee place down here. Anyways, love you guys. Hope I can get some people interested in my motorcycle material and references to the good Lord Jesus Christ here and there. God bless. Leave a comment, hit like, dislike, share this video, and I will talk with you another time later.